So today I'm going to talk to you about how we teach Portuguese here at UFPA in your course. It's about the pedagogical choices, the methodology that we use when we're teaching Portuguese here. And it's important for you to understand why we do what we do and how we do it, so that you take charge of the process and you make the most out of it. So whenever I define the way the course works here at UFPA, I always say four things. It's student-centered, project-based, intercultural, in an immersion environment. So let me explain the four things for you. First of all, let's go from backwards, from the end to the beginning. Immersion. That means you're learning Portuguese in Brazil. You're learning Portuguese in a country where Portuguese is spoken by most people, by almost everybody. So that is very different from learning a language in your home country, where most of the exposure, almost all of the exposure that you get from the language is from the classroom. Here it's different. We structure the course completely different because the language is all around you. You go out to the streets, you turn on the TV, you listen to the radio, everything. The language is around you. So we use that in our favor. It's different from learning a language in your home country, because when you're learning a language in your home country, you have very little exposure to it. So in that sense, the classroom is the place where all the language exposure is mostly done. The class is structured around that. So you will see in our class that when you come to class, we're not going to be telling you, this is the language. We're going to be telling you things like, well, how do you talk about this topic from the experiences that you've had when you're outside the classroom, where you're leading your everyday life, at the store, taking a bus, coming to school, and that kind of thing. So we want to take advantage of the world around us in order to make you learn language. We think it's more fun and more productive that way. It's also intercultural. So what happens is that because you're not home, there's a lot of additional challenges to learning language, because as I've said before, and I keep saying all the time, if you're unhappy, if you don't have a place to live, if you can't stand the food, if you don't make any friends, if you don't socialize, if you don't watch TV, if you don't learn how to live in Brazil, then it's a big challenge to learn the language. So it's intercultural in the sense that you really need to understand the culture in order to be able to even survive. Now, when any person learns a new language, they have to understand and start participating in the culture that language is immersed in, that reflects that language, and that language reflects. Because there is no language without a culture. The thing is, most people think that whenever you're learning a new language, what you do is that you simply translate your knowledge, your ideas, your emotions, and your experiences from one language to another one. Well, that's not how it works. When you're learning a new language, what you have to do is have new experiences and think about things anew, and have emotions in that language and live that language. And you only do that within the culture, interacting with other people who speak that language as a first, second, or third, or whatever language. And that language is ingrained in a culture. It's integrated in a cultural system. So whenever you talk about any topic, you're going to see that Brazilians talk about it in a different way, because they're talking about it from their perspective. So you have to understand the Brazilian culture for two reasons. One, in order to be able to understand Portuguese and to make it make sense. If you've taken a bus here in Brazil, you'll see that it's probably, in Salvador, it's probably different from how it is in your country. There are lots of little quirks and little rules that you're used to in your country, but here are different. So it doesn't matter if you know how to say bus and bus stop and things like that. If you don't understand the code, like where the bus stop is and what the cobrador and well, do you walk in through the back door or through the front door and that kind of thing? How do you ask for directions and things like that? If you don't understand that, it's no use knowing what the word for bus is. So it has to be intercultural. You need to understand, you need to learn about the culture at the same time as you're learning about the language. So you talk about that culture in your you talk about the new culture in your new language. And then you build experiences from there. And you think about it, and sometimes you're going to be angry, sometimes you're going to be impatient, sometimes you're going to be happy, sometimes you're going to think it's funny. So that's how the whole process works. And especially because you're in an immersion situation. If you don't learn how to do that, it's going to be very difficult for you to live here, because you've got to go to the store and you've got to make friends and you've got to deal with the people and the streets and the traffic and the weather and things like that. And if you don't learn how to do that, life becomes very difficult. So that's why we do, the projects. So this, right from the beginning of the course, I start doing projects. Why? Because, well, for two reasons. First, because the project is a way for you to explore the culture, build interactions, build relationships, have interactions with people. So in one project, in the first project, you're going to take a bus with two classmates and just go around the city. In the second project, you're going to interview a few people and ask them about a specific topic. So you're going to interact with Brazilians. And you're going to find out at the same time how the culture works when you're taking a bus, for example, in the first project, and learn the language that goes with that. So the project is really fun because you're actually not memorizing stuff from a book or from notes or something that we've decided that you should learn. You're going to learn it as you do it. You're going to learn as you go. And that is why we call it student-centered, because it's centered in around your interests and your priorities. So when you're taking the bus, for some people it's going to be more important to learn how to ask for directions. For other people, maybe the bus isn't even that interesting. Maybe they're interested in other things. Actually, one problem that we have with language learning in general, as it occurs right now, and this is my fifth point, which is multi-level. You may have noticed that in your classroom there are going to be beginners who've just arrived in Brazil and who speak absolutely no Portuguese, people who know a little bit, and people who know a little bit more. Some people can even carry on a conversation in Portuguese. Well, why do we do that? When usually what students do is that they're distributed among levels. Well, that's because the course is student-centered. So it's centered around your interests, but also it's centered around your experiences with other people. And we want you to have a very rich experience with other international students from all over the world. We have people here from East Timor, from Pakistan, from all over Africa, the Caribbean, all over Latin America, from all over Europe. We want you to meet these people. This is an incredible experience. This is an incredible opportunity. And the thing is, if you cannot deal with these people from all over the world, how are you ever going to deal with Brazilians? You don't need to be among people from your country to learn an additional language. It's actually even more interesting for you. Say you're from the Czech Republic and you're in a group with somebody from Ghana and some other student from Mexico. And the three of you are going to find that you have a lot in common, and the experience that you're going through has a lot of things in common. In the meantime, well, you're all students and you're living in Brazil and you're learning Portuguese and everything. And at the same time, there are lots of difference because you're from different places and you're from different backgrounds and everything. And it's interesting to share that. It's an incredible learning experience and we don't want you to miss on that. But then there's another thing, which is the multi-level thing, which is usually people, whenever you're grouped together in a classroom with people at your same level. The assumption there is that students all learn the same things in the same order, at the same speed, using the same strategies. Well, that's not how it works. First of all, people learn different things. If you love surfing, you're going to learn about surfing on your first day in Brazil. If you've never surfed in your life and you have no interest in surfing, why would you learn about surfing? So what happens is that language courses, they all have this sequence of things that they teach you, but it's very artificial. So we want to make it a unique experience for you to learn about the things that you're really interested in, and from your experiences, whatever they might be. So if you're interested in food, or if you're really interested in, I don't know, jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, that's what you should learn about, and that's what you should be talking about, because you need to talk about that. You need to talk about the things you love. You need to be doing the things you love. You need to be living the experience here in Brazil from your own viewpoint, and from the viewpoint of somebody who loves things and doing the things that they love. So, and the other thing is, that's why it's student-centered. Each student has a unique experience, which is structured around projects. And so why should people be at different levels? Well, because guess what? Whenever you're in a classroom, everybody's at different levels. And the thing is, when you go out on the streets, there's going to be people who know more than you, there's going to be people who know less than you, and that's how classes are. When you're in school, or when you're at university and college taking a course, there's people who know more, there's people who know less, and we help each other. We work as a team. So this is very important, because if you're a student who's just arrived in Brazil, your colleague who's been here for a couple of months can help you out with a few things, and you talk about that, and you talk about that in Portuguese. And as you exchange that information, both parties learn. Actually, let me tell you a secret. You often learn much more from teaching than you do from learning. So the student who's helping you out is also learning. He or she is learning from your experience, from sharing their own experience, from comparing their experiences, and from thinking about the language and about the experience itself. So it's much more productive for you to have a student, to work with a student who's from a different country, who's having a similar experience to you, different in some ways, similar in some ways, but also who may know a little bit more about one subject, a little bit less about one subject, and we help each other. Now, when you're doing a project, the important thing is that you do your best. What we are evaluating when you're doing a project is whether you've learned something out of it. So it doesn't matter if your starting point was more advanced or more basic. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you've progressed, that you've learned more about people here, about the culture here, about the language here. And each person learns in a different way and from their own experiences, which is so much more fun and so much more enriching and so much more effective. And that's the story. So do the project. Some more advanced students are going to do the project linguistically more advanced. More elementary students will do their own project more linguistically, less linguistically advanced. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that you've helped each other, you've shared experiences, and that you've all learned. I want to see the progress, not the end result. There's no benchmarks in terms of results, in terms of grammar, vocabulary, or anything like that. I want to see that you've improved. So what we're trying to do with the projects is to guide your immersion experience. So you might be afraid to go out in the city and live things. So we want to make it safe and slow and approachable and reachable. So we want to guide your immersion experience, help you ease the tension and lose your fears. We want to ease interactions with Brazilians through the projects and also through the tutoria, tandem, and monitoria as well. We want to help you build relationships, both with other international students, not just with people from your country, but other international students, and with Brazilian students. And we want to help you understand the local culture, the Brazilian culture, especially here in Salvador, which is kind of unique as you progress. And if you go to another part of Brazil, you see that it's a little bit different. And how to navigate Salvador, to navigate Brazilian culture and Salvador culture. And also to develop intercultural skills, which is we want to help you try to understand that when you're, how to see the world from other people's eyes. Through a different culture. That's not as easy as it sounds, and I'm going to talk about that in other videos. We want you to learn from diversity. It's so much more fun. You learn from people from all over the world, from people with different experience, married people, single people, older people, younger people, people doing their PhDs, people who've just finished high school, and so on. That's how you learn. You learn from people's experiences, from diversity. And we want to help you learn from learn Portuguese, of course. But we want to make it in a fun, engaging, effective, and personalized way. And that's why we do the projects. So next time you're doing your project, think about it. We want to make it, try to make the most out of it, to live an intense and rewarding experience. And then talk about that when you come to class. That's it.